I wrote a new poem. I live at a place called Pe'ilani, which is, it's a gated community. It's to keep us in though, rather than to keep other people out. This is called Pe'ilani Ferraris. Pe'ilani is not too far from Foodland on Wainé Street. Rollin', 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 rollin' down the street, propelled by senior citizens, heading home to eat. Sometimes food, sometimes trash. Go slow, hang on, don't want to crash. Better speed it up. I think I might fart. Gotta get home with my grocery cart. I'm headed for Pe'ilani, home of the wounded and old, where in the early morning it gets a little cold. As long as we keep moving and standing on our feet, it feels like roller derby, and we all think that's neat. Blacktop softer than cement, and shoes are better than flaps. Better keep pushing till I get home. I need to catch one nap. We won't win many races as we meander along quite slow. And in the game of life, we didn't win much dough. But we're still smiling neath the Maui sun, hanging 10 and having fun. We've got everything we could need. Sun and sand and a little speed. Now, when I say speed, I don't mean fast. Some seniors use pills to help them and time pass. Don't be alarmed, we're unarmed, clutching our rolling machines. As we wobble along with focus, we don't want to spill the beans. Well, I've come to gate 4 and I can roll right in. My critics are waiting, noting my sins. My critics amaze me as they gossip and chatter. While they sit and talk ugly, they only get fatter. Some live their lives and some just talk. Some are graced with a blessed walk. I've been round the world and lived from my heart. Now I just follow my grocery cart.
Read that to the senior center. Yeah,
Brand new.
very good word.
Here's one you've not heard before. It's called Clyde. Lost my best friend today. We'd been buddies for more than 10 years. I held him as he died in my arms. He passed on, knowing no fear. We'd hiked through the woods and flown to Hawaii. He woofed the unfamiliar away. May they always raise my spirits, these memories of happy days. He was 3 parts Shar-Pei and a quarter lab, and I the master he was pledged to. He had my back at all times. His attention stuck on me like glue. I've seen him stand and fight like a bear and lick a newborn kitten. He stopped strangers dead in their tracks, but no one was ever bitten. He weighed in at 120 pounds. He was big but tame. He watched for any move of my hand and listened for his name. He didn't abuse his strength. Other dogs just sensed his power. He loved and obeyed me at all times. Only fireworks could make him cower. I'll miss my best buddy for the rest of my life. I'll think of him every day and how I ask him to scout us out a place where we can rest and play. The hereafter is a safer place for man and beast alike. When I get there, I'll call his name and then we'll take a hike.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Not brand new, but
yeah. Sweet.
one for Obama.
Thank you.
Oh, Jim, you haven't heard this. This is called Roaming the White House. Deep behind the White House walls roams a man who lost his balls. The Republicans said, we won't pay. Not tomorrow, not today. So the president sold out the middle class. He laid right down and put out fast. We've got a leader with no balls roaming behind the White House walls. He promised to lead the fight against subversion by the lunatic right. The Republicans said again, we won't pay. Not tomorrow, not today. So the president gave in quick as a flash and allowed the wealthy to keep their cash. And again, a leader with no balls roams behind the White House walls. He thinks that you can compromise with these right-wing lunatic guys. As a Keynesian, I know just what to do and just who to do it to. Supply side is a right-wing scam, I learned at Wharton. Thank you, ma'am. We need a president with basketballs to rally the troops and prepare the halls. I've tried to make contact with letters and prose. I couldn't get through. I tried twice, Lord knows. There will be no recovery on our current path. It's easy to see. Do the math. You must raise taxes upon the wealthy in order to make the economy healthy. It's time to move the ball down the floor. Try one jump shot, brah. Try even the score. You can't sell goods to folks with no cash. For them, the economy has already crashed. Raise taxes and hit them hard. Make the fat cats shed some lard. Take from the rich and give to the poor. That will start to even the score. It's time for the president to find his balls so he can strut proudly behind White House walls.
As long as Congress doesn't change it.
Oh, that first poem about the grocery cart, that was written by a fellow named Anonymous, and we'll keep it that way.
Oh, okay, I like it.
Yes, that's by a
Okay.
fellow named Anonymous.
Of course.
Don't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
He lives there.
I know.
Melinda, remember when you had us do something on one of those retreats, write an arrival poem?
Yeah.
Well, I wrote that in my book, and I waited and I waited and I waited. It was about a year and a half later. Arrival is when a ship comes in. A departure is when it leaves. Marriage is when a couple rejoices. Death is when it grieves. Arrival can mean many things, depending with whom you're talking. Some words can make you flee. Some might set you walking. Upon arrival, when the ship's tied up, the engineers come alive to scurry off like runaway rats, heading for the nearest dive. Engineers can fix that's broke. They keep the ship shape. They know when to use brute force and when to employ duct tape. Sailors sail 'cause they love the sea. They're with her night and day. She communes and grants them peace in her most unusual way. The sign of Jonah is the sign of the Lord, the sign of one so great. An arrival is when the sun returns to set the Republicans straight. Oh, here's one. Remember Scooter Libby?
Dude.
Okay, I just wanted you to know who Scooter was. The other one you won't have any problem figuring out. It's called Shooter and Scooter. Shooter sent Scooter marching up to the hill to keep their war a-going. So Scooter lied and kept the truth inside, and Shooter was pleased with the showing. As a neocon, Shooter knows he's right in everything he tries, like allowing our kids to pay for 2 wars and pumping Scooter with lies. You see, neocons, they know no rules and pay no respect to laws. When it comes to spreading their gospel, and adhering to their cause, but I know their fatal flaw. Their oops, but we can't be wrong. Reaganomics is a right-wing hoax that they've been praising for so long. I studied supply side at Wharton 10 years before Laffer invented it. It was demonstrated to be a hoax by an advisor to American presidents. The fatal flaw is easy to see. Keynes was abandoned for greed. The neocons' illusions will soon collapse, and that smell is their pants they've peed. Now I know how to fix this mess and return to our Keynesian past, but I won't point the way till the neocons bow before kissing my Keynesian ass. Met an old sailing man in a bar one night. The lights were turned down low. My big wave's a-comin', good captain friend, and there are some things you need to know about some islands in life's stormy seas where the humpbacks like to play. Bend down close, don't miss my words, I heard the old man say. Malama Manae, mate. Malama Manae. And while you're in the islands, friend, pay special respect to Kauai. And don't dare harm McKenna on Maui's pillaged shore. Then you'll find your peace at sunset, just listening to the ocean's roar. Then he lit his pipe and strained a smile as sweat rolled down his brow. My wave will soon be cresting, friend. I can feel it building now. I've gotten drunk with Davy Jones, and I've danced with the princess too. Now all I've got is my life's advice, and that I'll share with you. Then the old man rose and staggered out into the gloomy night. I could hear him softly crying as he drifted out of sight. I'll not forget his haunting smile, nor the steel in the old man's eyes. And if you seek his islands, best cherish his advice. They found him lying at the ocean's edge, a pipe nestled to his side. And they say the ocean missed a beat the night the old man died. A gentle sea now kissed him as it lapped at his right hand. And then I saw the old man's words etched into the sand. Malama Manae, mate. Malama Manae. And while you're in the islands, friend, pay special respect to Kauai. And don't dare harm McKenna on Maui's pillaged shore. Then you'll find your peace at Sunset Beach, just listening to the ocean's roar. What do we got? Okay, here's one. Here's one you've not heard before. Smilin' Jack. When last I went a-travelin', it was to my Hoosier home, to seek out peace and solitude, and to write a sailing poem. As a sailor without an ocean, I felt like J. Edgar in The Joint, and thus was my introduction to the nightlife of Crown Point. Around the square in my hometown are ringed the merchant shops. A brush machine has cleaned the streets like 100 sailors' mops. I anchored the car and stretched my legs, and then I stopped to stare at a memory from my high school days. The courthouse standing there. The courthouse in this handsome town is a relic from days gone by, and the sight of the still proud structure was enough to make me sigh. But I was tired and the day was long, the hours had taken their toll. So I scurried off across the street to an old-time watering hole. It had been 20 years since I'd left town in search of my special star, and I wasn't sure just what I'd find as I headed for the bar. A neon sign directed me, but I didn't need a map. Then a bouncer looked me over as I entered the gridiron tap. A blast of noise encompassed me as I surveyed the narrow space, and there before my bewildered eyes stood half the human race. Mementos lined the barroom walls and a deer with quite a rack. Behind the bar in his trim golf cap stood the owner, Smilin' Jack. Well, I took a seat and had a beer and listened to Smilin' Jack. When I stared over my port shoulder, a TV stared right back. Beer and bull and baseball. I forget the final score, but when the Cubs lost it in the ninth, I knew I was home once more. Then Smilin' Jack gave me a wink. He'd not forgot my name. As 10 more bodies crammed the bar after their softball game, a gorgeous blonde in a softball shirt took a stool right next to me. The most beautiful girl I'd seen in months. I sailed into ecstasy. As I sat there in a stupor, wondering what to do, my old buddy, Smilin' Jack, really pulled me through. He introduced me to the gorgeous blonde, whose name I'll not reveal. She smiled into a sailor's eyes, and then his heart did steal. But now I'm back on Maui, writing another poem. I often think of the gridiron tap and the friends I left back home. The gorgeous blonde took off for France, and I took a different tack. But I still recall that magic night, and my good friend, Smilin' Jack. Oh. This guy used to live in line, and you probably don't remember.
Briggs?
Okay, I'll do, about a pair of friends, some friends of mine on Molokai, Eddie and Susan. Eddie and Susan are quite a pair. They live on a magic isle. And when I again became shorebound, I stayed with them a while. In a valley lush with history, and mangoes and papayas and such, where I collected my thoughts, laid out my plans, and smoked a little too much. Eddie moved slow and smiled a lot, and Susan moved hardly at all. We laughed about the times we'd been sailing. I cried about the rainbow's demise. The love of my brother and sister melted my cries into sighs. Breakfast at noon, dinner by moon, and a joint or two between. The days with Eddie and Susan were the most laid back that I've seen. Eddie moved slow and smiled a lot. Susan moved hardly at all. I went to the mainland once, Eddie smiled one day, on the biggest plane I've ever seen. We landed in L.A. When morning came, I took a stroll beneath a brown thick fog. I ran back to get my raincoat and was told it's only smog. Eddie moved slow and smiled a lot. Susan moved hardly at all. I spent time in Indiana, Susan chimed right in a little town called Terre Haute, where living was a sin. I tended bar and swung my hips while the townsfolk swung their tongues. Ah yes, my days in Indiana, one of life's first rungs. Eddie moved slow and smiled a lot. Susan moved hardly at all. I've traveled halfway around the world, smiled the proud Hawaiian man. To New York first, then to Greece, even to Switzerland. But I called it quits on a tour one day in a traffic jam called Rome. My auntie paid for 2 more weeks, but I missed my island home. Eddie moved slow and smiled a lot. Susan moved hardly at all. My husband was a college prof and a damn good engineer. While he was teaching sophomores, I danced and slung the beer. But now he's in Alaska, drilling oil rigs through her floor. And I'm here in Hawaii, where I don't sling much anymore. Eddie moved slow and smiled a lot. Susan moved hardly at all. Now lives fall together and lives fall apart as yin and yang go round. In turns out and right turns left as up turns upside down. Take your time, we'll share our space as the road of life you seek. And when you're feeling better, Well, then stay another week. Eddie moved slow and smiled a lot. Susan moved hardly at all. Guess I stayed about 2 more weeks, then I moved on down the road with a smile for Eddie and Susan, who'd helped to share my load. Maybe I'll try Alaska. Maybe I'll fly to Rome. But I'll not forget my island friends and the warmth of the magic home, where Eddie moves slow and smiles a lot, and Susan moves hardly at all.